In today's episode, I reflect on being evicted. Welcome to Monologues by Hassie. So this weekend has been incredibly busy. It is the weekend that I am getting evicted, and I figured that no matter how tired I am right now, and I'm bloody exhausted, that in the last hour of me living here in Potts Point in my apartment, I wanted to really reflect on how this experience has been like. So I got an eviction notice 3 months ago that my lease was going to be ending because there was going to be works done to the entire building. Now, this is a bit special because it is not just me who was evicted or is being evicted right now. It is everybody in my building. And what I witnessed throughout those 3 months is that for some people, this meant that they were going to secure a place straight away. For others, it didn't. For me, I'm looking for a rental later. I will be doing a little bit of travel. And because of that, I waited until the very last day. And here we are. It is the 31st of May. This was the absolute deadline that every tenant in my building had, because our whole block and the neighboring blocks are all owned by a property developer. Now, that's fine. I'm not making a moralistic stance on that. Things change, and sometimes they change for the better, sometimes they change for the worse, but change, at least locally, can always be painful. But being in this kind of mass eviction process was kind of interesting, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way. I actually found a lot of positives coming out of it. Now, I did hear a few sad things. There's somebody in my building there are a few people in my building who've lived here for a very long time. And for them, having to leave what has fundamentally been home is a stressful situation. And I was very empathetic listening to this. And as somebody who is 31 right now, I know that no matter where I am, there's going to be a point in the future where I do not want to expose myself to the risks of eviction. So it kind of made me crave home ownership more than I actually thought about. Like, I do want to be a homeowner eventually, but I'm like, this is actually really important, especially as I become older. And there was an older gentleman in my building who has been here for 12, maybe even more than 12 years. And as a result of that, it's very tough. Like, Sydney is not a nice, kind rental market. If you have had a historic legacy rent that hasn't really changed much over time, and now you need to go out into the world and see what people are paying in 2026, then it is not a nice reality. So that was something where, that was one of the, I think, saddest stories I heard today as people were moving out. But I think for me, the biggest thing was I got to meet so many of my neighbors. And when you're living in any sort of high density living, different people have different lifestyles. And so you might run into people from time to time. You may never really get the chance to chat. And so for me, there's, one or two neighbors who I knew and chatted to. But beyond that, out of the 24 people, or more than 24 people, right? 24 apartments that were in my unit, I didn't really know who was in the rest of them. And so all of a sudden, we have this weekend where everyone is scrambling to move their items, like I was, and clean their apartments and get everything ready so they can leave on time and hopefully be in a state where they get their bond back. These are the things people do when they're renting. And so all of a sudden, I'm in this situation where me and everybody else in my building is going through it. At least those of us who decided to stay in our apartments until the very last day. And it was nice. There was so much chit chat as people were cleaning and bringing things down and moving, and you got to know about what people were doing, what they were doing next. And it's weird that I've lived with these people for such a long time. I mean, and I never really got to know them. They might have been in the unit next to me or below me, and I never really got the chance to talk to them and say hi. And if there's one great positive thing that has come out of Eviction Day, it was the fact that I got to see and meet my neighbors. And that is a bit bittersweet because they're not going to be my neighbors anymore. And they were really wonderful people. And so I'm grateful for that. And I think that's really all I want to talk about. This has been an incredibly stressful weekend. It has been, there have been twists and turns and surprises and other emergencies outside of me being evicted that I've had to deal with as well. But amongst all of that, I was able to fit all my worldly belongings into 2 Mitsubishi Lancers, which is a kind of small size sedan. So there was one carload where it looked like a rainforest. It was just plants, and the second one was more boxes. But all my material possessions basically condensed into 2 carloads. And yes, there was one carload where I couldn't see out the rear view mirror, but even for me, I'm thinking, as somebody who doesn't really have places to store these things, I probably do need to revisit the original Marie Kondo and maybe declutter a bit. So these are my reflections of move out day. It was busy, it was stressful, other things happened in my life. I still had to, I made some time amongst the moving to actually be present and enjoy where I am. There was yesterday evening, I bought lunch and I just sat on my balcony and watched the sunset on the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House and the vista of Sydney CBD. So enjoyed the sunset. Today I made some time to go swimming and have a session at the sauna amongst all the chaos. And I'm grateful for that because I was basically doing Stairmaster, going up and down my stairs, carrying things, cleaning things. It was a workout that just wasn't logged on Strava. So that's all there is in this episode. It's just me talking about getting evicted. And to all of you who are listening to this, I wish you better luck with your rentals if you're renting, and that you have choice when you do decide to leave a place. But I wish you all great success on all your endeavors. You've just made it through another episode of Monologues by Hassie. It brings me great pleasure to know that you made it to the end. To listen to more episodes, subscribe on your favorite podcast app or visit monologuesbyhassie.com. Thanks for swinging by.